From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott and Mundt, and this is Weather or Not for Wednesday, October 28th. On today's show, we'll talk about Halloween. Things are looking just a little bit colder. Still looking at maybe a chance at a frightening flurry or two come Halloween. It's been a dry autumn. We'll have some of those numbers coming up for the Sioux Falls area. And does that mean anything going into the snow season? November, we've been teasing about November being an all-or-nothing month when it comes to snowfall. I finally put together some stats on that, and we'll give you that information coming up as well. And, of course, we'll finish with our snow trend. Today's forecast, we've had the showers yesterday. Today we're looking at a decrease in cloud cover, but temperatures will be cool. Numbers today in the 40s and 50s for afternoon highs. This looks interesting as we get into tonight. There may be a couple of isolated showers. You could see that on the model here in the northeastern South Dakota. Maybe late tonight toward daybreak tomorrow. We'll see if they add up to anything. Otherwise, it looks like we'll have a dry day. And by the time we do get into Friday, we are looking at thickening cloud cover, a stronger northwest wind, which will help bring in some cooler temperatures on Halloween, where some will be stuck in the 40s for afternoon highs. Our winds as we get into Friday, we're looking at northwest winds gusting over 30 miles per hour in central and south-central South Dakota. We'll eventually transition those stronger winds into eastern KELOLAND, maybe during the late afternoon or early evening, and then those winds will eventually start to die down as we get into the overnight hours. Then we'll get a break from the wind for the first half of the weekend as that colder air sinks in. Temperatures for today will reach the 40s and 50s for afternoon highs. We'll have an increasing southerly wind in western South Dakota at 15 to 30 miles per hour. And for tonight, temperatures will fall to the 20s and 30s, not as cold as the temperatures that we had this morning in western South Dakota, where Pine Ridge fell to 10 degrees. Eastern KELOLAND stayed a lot warmer. Well, coming up on the program, we'll talk about this Halloween forecast and be joined by meteorologist, not Scott Mundt, but Brian Karstens. He's coming up in just a bit. Stay with us. You're watching the latest edition of Weather or Not. All right, Brian, we'll start with this one instead of the music. Okay?
All right. Got my attention.
All right, I turned that. Is there something else on this graphic that you see? No, I just made it a little smaller.
I do. I see the little...
It was actually your idea.
Yeah, I know. But does the audience, do you see what's in the middle there? Is that a snowflake?
That is a snowflake, and that is something that we talked about yesterday. Possibly, I think I mentioned precipitation. There's a very slight chance for precipitation on Halloween. And didn't say one or the other.
Good reason for that. So as we stack up the ingredients for Friday, I think you've used the term frightening flurries.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Maybe.
Came up in a meeting this morning.
So here's the thinking on Friday, and I don't want to spill all the beans yet, but basically, yes, the atmospheric conditions, if you look at the structure of the atmosphere on Friday, the entire column of air is below freezing until you get right down near the surface. So let's see what happens.
And our temperatures right now are in the 40s, but that's been cooling, hasn't it?
It has.
From what we had earlier in the week. I'm sure we had 50-something earlier in the week.
As I'm talking to you here, I'm just thinking off the cuff here. I think I've got the dew point forecast. See, now this is one thing I was going to mention earlier was the dry air coming in on the backside of this little front on Friday.
Okay.
If you can muster enough precipitation on radar just to get a few, let's say just a couple light showers.
I know where you're going.
Okay, but you get a northwest wind, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to undercut that cloud with air temperatures that are, yes, they'll probably start off in the upper 30s, low 40s, but then you've got the advection of that dry air underneath, and that's evaporative cooling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you got to really charge all that together to get that snowflake to make it down to the surface, but I've worked here long enough. I think it's possible.
Oh, I think it's possible too. We were looking at the temperatures in the higher layers of the atmosphere. You can't just forecast stuff that's going on at the surface. But we were looking at that even with what just moved through yesterday, the day before. Because I mentioned to you when I came in, I go, did you see what's going on with these isotherms and the heights? Everything's falling.
It's our list of what we call our critical thicknesses or critical values. We've got a list of different things we can look at.
You know what it kind of reminds me of with all these things we're trying to do a checklist of? The magic chart. Boy, is that an old one.
Yeah, the magic chart. Those are old-fashioned.
There's a whole list of stuff that goes into there.
I wonder if they still teach that in meteorology school.
Visit that.
The magic chart.
Do you have a graphic?
That'd be fun just to bring up.
I have a graphic too. Just
you bring up yours
okay.
first. I'll work on a couple things over here.
You go right ahead, and I'll start talking. I'll go through 3 different models, much like what I did yesterday. And I think there's great agreement here too from what we had yesterday. As we do go through time here, let's go ahead and take that full. 7 o'clock, showing the shower chance. Now, this is on the European model. See the darker green that we have? I'll go ahead and highlight that. That is showing up in southwestern Minnesota, northwestern Iowa. Oh, and there's a little pink there near Storm Lake. So that's signifying that the model thinks is a mix. Let me go back and restart this. Oh, no, here we go. Hopefully it doesn't move. There, okay. Restart this graphic because I noticed this before too. There's a little blue there near Pipestone at 5 o'clock. So
right on the Buffalo Ridge.
Even the model's trying to, signify that, yes, we can see some of this in the form of light snow. Just a matter of the placement. Brian said right on the Buffalo Ridge there, probably a good spot to see a couple of flakes of snow. So I wanted to start that graphic over. There again is 7 o'clock. You see some darker greens coming in, Worthington near Spencer, southwest Minnesota, northwestern Iowa. Things do break as we go through the overnight hours. Now, here's a look at the Euro AI. Now, this isn't as fine-tuned, shows a little more widespread area here, trying to bring in some showers, and it doesn't distinguish as to, what may fall in the form of rain or snow. But again, when we look at things behind the scenes in the higher layers of the atmosphere, it is bringing in at least a chance to see a couple of snowflakes. On the American model here, the GFS, a lot like what it was yesterday. It's not showing much, maybe a couple of hit and miss showers, but anything that falls, hits the ground, will remain light. Always, as a kid, Brian, looked forward to seeing, the first snow. Will this be a measurable snow? Well, probably not for many. Just actually seeing a snowflake or two.
Can you imagine?
On Halloween.
Right. I mean, okay, so there you go. You got that. You got the kids with all the sugar, all the candy. Now you add a couple snowflakes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and Dad are going to have a fun time on Friday with
it was also brought up
kids
during the meeting. I have to lean over to get my notes that I took before doing the show, and I always like doing this just to prove that
real
notes.
Have
some notes here.
I know. You keep that organized over
question
there.
Was brought up, how often do we get snow on Halloween?
Yes, so that was right. We did get that question.
I quickly looked that up, looking at 130 years of record keeping in Sioux Falls. 4 years came back with measurable snow.
Okay, I know the first one.
That I could find. 91.
91.
Right. And then 95 had 3.5 inches of snow.
Really? 95? Mm-hmm. Okay.
What was another one we had here? Maybe can't find it here on the notes. But if you throw in at least a trace of snow, then it happened 15 of those 130. So if we get a snowflake,
all right,
you can throw in that trace.
That would be thrown in as a trace. Interesting numbers on that. And for the month of October, we average, about an inch and a half of snow?
Inch and a half. 1.4 is what it officially comes in as. 3 inches for an average in Rapid City.
Interesting. Okay, Scott, I did find my little dew point graphic. So, again, we're talking about the trick-or-treat forecast. So what we're looking at here are the dew point temperatures. So remember, what is the impact of this? Well, this gives us our theoretical low temperature, or where the atmospheric conditions, the temperature could, in theory, drop to this level. Okay. Now, we know that highs on Friday are still going to be in the 40s, so at least we feel pretty confident in that. So automatically there's a gap. So let's throw the number 45 out there. Let's say we hit a high of 45.
Now, what you're doing is you're talking about the dew point depression. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the gap. That's what we call dew point depression between the actual temperature and the forecast dew point. So dew point 29 in Sioux Falls. So what that does is, let's say we get that little shower to come on KELOLAND Live Doppler HT. Mm-hmm. Let's draw a scenario out. Let's say that comes in out of Madison, okay, northwest of Sioux Falls. So it's coming down the northwest flow. Mid-level winds are taking that in. So if that shower can get its act together, it's got to saturate from the base of the cloud to the surface level. So in order to do that, you've got to bridge the gap between 29 and 45. So how does that happen? Well, they meet in the middle, usually, is what will happen. But in this case where the dew point's 29, that gives us some room to drop that 45. So is it tough to get it, to that 32 where, I've seen cases before, Scott, where it'll be 35 or 36 and it'll snow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That can happen. So maybe, between 29 and 45, you can meet halfway. It's close.
Now, I think we looked at our dew points for Friday earlier in the week, and these are a lot cooler.
They are. They have dropped. Mm-hmm. They have, because even 2 days ago, we were talking about this, and I thought, maybe, but then the dew points were still in the they were somewhere in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
But now we got dew points in the 20s. And if we keep getting drier air at the surface, if this drops again, that's all you got to do. You got to push in dry air from Canada.
And I see your time here is noon.
Yeah, that's noon. Let me show, let's go out to the trick-or-treat time period. So there's 5, 6 o'clock. See that?
Slowly falling.
And do you see how the numbers are actually, they're not a lot different, like here on to Spencer, Iowa, 27 to 30. So upper 20s. Interesting meteorology. The one thing about it is if it does snow a little bit, you'll know why, is what we're trying to communicate.
Right.
And if it doesn't quite get there, those raindrops, they are raindrops that used to be snowflakes, because they'll melt. They'll start as snowflakes, and then they'll come down, and then most of them will melt. I'm sure of that. More rain, showers or sprinkles and snow. But fun conversation.
And we'll have some wind, too. Northwest winds.
Yeah.
Especially if we're getting some of these rain showers that go, and a lot of that evaporates before it hits the ground, you'll generate some wind out of that.
And trick-or-treating, starts 5:30?
5, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. So, yeah, it could be a little bit damp, could be a little windy, so just be prepared for that. Our Storm Tracker app and all of our tools will give you some things to think about, but it's the end of October, Scott. So it's usually a little chilly.
You might get more candy because not many kids are out.
Well, the kids will be out. I know that. They're not scared at all. They'll be out. You betcha. So,
all right, what do we
Interesting conversation.
What do we have here next? Oh, the dry autumn. I did some stats here. I thought about this during KELOLAND this morning. So I went back in the archives, and I looked at our pattern, because I knew September for Sioux Falls was dry, but we'll just do a recap here for the state. Our monthly precipitation so far for October, you see around 3/4 of an inch in Sioux Falls, just over a third in Mitchell, 1.5 inches there in Rapid City. Now, when we compare this to our monthly climate average, you can see we're well below central, eastern KELOLAND, well above in the northwestern South Dakota, Buffalo, almost 2 inches above average. Rapid City, real close to our climate average, 1,700s above, about 1.25 inches below in Aberdeen. But, Brian, I'm concentrating here on Sioux Falls. So far this fall, in September, October, November, we're just shy of an inch, 0.97 of an inch. Now, if we do not get a drop through the end of November, then that's good for second place for driest autumns.
Yeah, so potential. But last autumn, we were dry, and then we ended up getting a lot of rain in November, if I remember correctly, because obviously it's not a top 10 year there.
Right.
But it started dusty and dry.
And our climate average for the month is 1.25 inches.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I had at least 2 inches of rain at my house last November. Because I remember that thinking, wow, okay, at least we got a little rain going into the winter.
Okay, I didn't know that was going to happen on the graphic, but let me go ahead and get in here and take that one marquee. Well, actually, I'll just leave it like this. Here's the list, and I highlighted a couple of these areas because they did end up in the top 10 for least amount of snow. Okay. 2011, 2012, we ended up with just under 16 inches of snow. So following that dry autumn, that's what we had for a snow season. Well, 3 of those top 10 show up in the top 10 for least amount of snow. There is one that comes in with the 13th most for snow at 60.5 inches. That was 55, 56.
Interesting.
And I think I did the average of this, and it ended up being, for all 10 years here, the snow season ended up being around 33.5 inches.
That's close to your
Oh,
prediction.
you remember.
I do remember, Scott. 31.5?
31.5
Okay.
is what I'm saying for our snow season this year.
Yeah,
So I'm looking at this, and I'm going, I saw those years with, oh, no, very little snow. And then there were a couple of years that came in average, 42, 44 inches. And then we had that one at 60. And it boiled down to coming out at around 33.5.
Now, my next question for you is, of course, we could delve further into this. Sorting out which years were La Niñas, which one were El Niños, kind of sort through comparisons.
I can do that.
Yeah, and then all the various components that you look at for winter forecasting. But I do know right off the top of my head, I can think of 74 going into 1975. That had a blockbuster winter. And winter of 75, January 75 is the notorious blizzard that hit the Sioux Falls region. That was probably one of the worst blizzards on record. So it must have been a real calm 74 with only 1.19 inches for September, October, November. And then it just, but then again, there was a lot more going on in 75. The other years in there, you got 99, 2000. I think that one was pretty quiet too, if I'm not mistaken.
For the season.
For the snow season, yeah. I don't think there was a lot.
Yeah, and I know in 98 we had heavy snow. I think it was around Veterans Day in November.
1998, November 10th
That's when we had that
or 11th.
thunder snow.
Yep.
I remember that. I was on my way into work with the lightning, and it's snowing.
Yeah, that can happen in early November. But we've been pretty tame the last few years. I don't think we've had any major ones.
We have.
Knock on wood.
So hang on. I think that goes into my next graphic. Oh, all or nothing.
Okay.
Let's take a break first.
Sounds
and then
good to
we'll
me.
talk about all or nothing coming up. Thank you. And you're watching Whether or Not. All right, Brian, it's all or nothing. This is something that we have been teasing for a while, bringing in the stats that tell me, November is either an all or nothing month when it comes to snow.
Yes, and we always talk about that. So now I'm curious to see what kind of numbers you have, because let's see if our memories jive correctly here with what this is all about.
Okay, November snow, either zero or a trace. That's happened 23 years. Okay, and this record keeping, see the marquee there in the upper right-hand portion of your screen. There's 133 years, but 3 of those years came back as missing data for November.
Okay.
So we'll just say, out of 130 years, 23 years came in as either a zero or a trace of snowfall. Okay, how about measurable snow just shy of an inch? That happened 22 times. So less than an inch, that's 55 out of the 130 years, 42% of the time. All right?
Mm-hmm.
What else do I have here? 1 inch to 3 inches. Okay, I think that's something we can handle. I would come back and say, we didn't get much snow in November. Would you agree with that?
Right, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
If it's only 1 to 3 for the whole month.
For the whole month. And that's happened 25 of the 130 years.
So now you're going to add them all together?
Well, let's go to the other side
okay.
first, okay? Years where we've had over a foot
Blockbuster.
in November,
Okay.
15 times that has happened. I had to give it, a range here. So I said, okay, we'll cut it off at 8 inches in a month. I'd say that's a decent month for snow.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the beginning of the year. So 8 to just shy of a foot, that's happened 13 times. So you add these two together, that's, just over 20% of the time.
That's a pretty decent number. So it's 1 in 5.
1 in 5, right? And then it's about 2 in 3 to get 3 inches or less.
Yeah, boy, that is interesting. So you don't have much in between there, maybe a little bit. And then you think about it with 8 inches of snow. Okay, those bigger years like you're talking about, the next question, and I know you probably don't have all the numbers here on this, but when was the last time we had an 8+ inch November?
Well,
I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but I can't remember. I will say, I'll guess it, is 2015. Because we had on the 20th of November of 2015, that's the big snowstorm where I drove home. Remember that?
Oh,
with
after the Doppler special?
Yes, the
that
Doppler
one?
special, and I was driving that Buick, and I knew the weather, we were going to get snow that day, but we were forecasting about 3 or 4 inches. We had a tight mesoscale band of snow that set up over Lincoln County and some other spots, and we ended up, I think my grand total was 18.
Oh, yeah, and it was a lot higher than what we had in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, well, the south side had, I think T ended up with 18, but the airport had like 7 or 8 that day.
Okay.
And, yeah, we could go on a whole tangent of that. But, there have been some big, okay, you do have the list. I see it.
Here we go. So in recent memory, there's a 2000, 19.6, 2015.
Okay. There it is.
17.3.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Okay. 2005, we had 14.3.
Well, that's 20 years ago.
Okay. 2001, 13.8. Yep. And then those numbers get less than a foot. Those are the ones in recent memory, I would say.
Right. So it has to go back then 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Wait, it's been easy in the month of November, hasn't it?
So 1 in 5.
Well, let's do this.
Your
then.
stats were 1 in 5 are 8+. So we're overdue.
Let's see, 8.2 in 19.
Oh, okay. So right outside the window there. Yep.
Yep. Right, just over that 8. Otherwise, then we're into 2015 when we had the next one over 8.
Okay. Well,
fun with numbers, right?
Yeah, that is interesting. I like that, Scott.
So then I have 0 to 3 inches, and I added that to the 8 or more. Again, it's all or nothing. Happens 4 out of 5 times, 83% of the time.
Wow.
And then everything else is, right in the middle there.
Yep.
I mean, a little over 3 to 7.9.
Yep. And I think at the end of the day, what that amounts to, Scott, is, people think, well, if depending on your perspective of winter, you get November in, and sometimes that's a bonus month for those that love winter.
Yeah.
You'll get that thrown in. Or, if you ask, anybody out at Great Bear who loves to ski, they'd love to get November started, but usually not. And then it's December, and then watching that to see if that'll kick into gear before Christmas.
And we should talk more about December on a different show on how we've had that shift. And we've talked a little bit about it, of March being the snowiest month. Now it's into December. And I think, I should look this up, but I think it's February's now the second snowiest.
Yeah, that's interesting,
March has really taken a back seat.
Yeah, that does deserve a show. We'll let that simmer there and bring that up someday because, it's changed since we've worked here. It's you've seen it over time that, it used to be that old standard that March was going to be these big, heavy, wet storms. And then now it seems like March kind of fades away, or if you do get precip, it's rain more than snow.
And then, of course, we can't forget about April.
Yes, well, there's that too. The 2018, 2018.
31.4. Look at
31 inches of snow. Yeah, that's at the end of your bell curve there, Scott.
Right. So we had the meeting this morning, and you said, well, I think Scott would like a couple of cold fronts. And I turned to you, and I said, well, we always have April.
Yep, we do. And we'll sure have some more cold fronts by then, won't we?
Let's go ahead and check our snow trend, and we'll wrap it up with this. As we've been following this since mid-September, on our chances of getting measurable snow here in KELOLAND. There's a look at the snow depth. Anything coming over the next 2 weeks? Well, the pattern would suggest that we do have well above average temperatures. And we talked about that during KELOLAND this morning. Notice how it is trying to bring something into, it's like northeast of here, southwest of Aberdeen. And, some of that can be what's expected there by the time we do get into Friday, Halloween. But it does bring something to our north. We'll see if any of this actually materializes, but it's really not showing much of anything. We don't see any big storms on the horizon anytime soon. So as you do take a look at those numbers for measurable snow for the 10th of November, 20th, and 30th, the average, it's coming in less than 50% by the 10th. I think a lot of that, you mentioned this, Brian, is going to what's expected over the next 2 weeks with above average air. I mean, that number of 16, that's a lot lower.
That's dropped
than what it's been coming in as.
Yeah, yep. So that gives you your first few days of the month. We're going to sail in Pacific air, it's just lock and load, and it's going to be warmer than average. And obviously, you don't have to be really much above average to take snow off your plate here too. So interesting to see that.
Yeah, we'll continue to follow what happens with our trend there. In the meantime, thank you for joining us on this latest edition of Weather or Not. Have yourself a great day.